Welcome to the Matt Cottrell Report. These are the extraordinary stories of everyday, ordinary individuals. Today's guest is originally from Eden, Texas, but would later move to San Angelo, Texas in grade school. So he's essentially a San Angelo native. He's running for mayor and has lots of great ideas for the city of San Angelo. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Trinidad Aguirre.
Hey.
Special guest in studio today. Of course, guys, this is Mr. Trinidad Aguirre running for mayor of San Angelo. Trinidad, thank you so much for coming in.
This is really a special event for me. I love these kinds of things. It gives you the opportunity to tell people who you are.
That's right.
And where you stand on positions. And then what I've learned is that, running for mayor, what it's taught me is there's a lot of people out there that have questions about how do we improve and how do we reduce taxes. So I'm looking forward.
Yeah. Well, very cool. So right out of the gates, here's what I want to ask you. And I don't want some canned answer. So tell me, what is your intrinsic motivator? Why are you doing this? Seriously.
I had several people come up to me and they were very frustrated. And they would come back and say, how do I reduce my taxes? My water bill, take a look at it. Why can I no longer have the quality of life that I used to have? We're talking 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
So I came back and my wife and I were talking and I think the real motivator was there's two kinds of people.
Okay.
There's one kind, the kind that will complain and argue and tell you everything that is wrong.
That's right.
And then there's those people that will do something about it.
That's right.
And that's where I came back in. I said, you know what? Instead of just talking and listening, I'm going to throw in my hat for mayor.
Nice.
And I need to make a change, and we need to make a change working with the council.
I love that.
That's why I'm in.
Okay. I like that. That's great. So I'm going to tell you right now, one of the criticisms that you people might have of you is they say, oh, well, Trinidad, unlike one of his opponents, Mr. Tom Thompson, who has experience on the city council, 8 years, you don't have a lot of experience in that realm necessarily, but you do have experience managing a lot of people, right? You worked for Verizon. You were the president. You managed, 12,000 people, something like that?
Approximately.
So what do you say to people like that you don't have the city government experience yet?
I've been on three boards.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was the executive board for the Chamber of Commerce.
See, a lot of people don't know that. That's
worked
good.
with them. I was also on I was part of the team that rewrote the charter. Now, the charter, for those that don't know, it's the Constitution of the United States. We have the Charter of San Angelo. It's the rules and the guidelines. So I know the process. And then I was on the Planning Commission board. What that did is we took a look at all the plats. We took a look at everything for the city. So yes, I was not in the council seat, but I have a lot of knowledge with the city. I know every executive on the board. I know most of the employees for the city. So over my tenure here, I've really learned to understand how the city works. Now, Tom will come back and tell you that he's been on the council and he's been the mayor pro tem, therefore he is ready to go.
He's like been groomed in a way for that.
So let's talk about what the mayor pro tem is.
Yeah.
He was the mayor pro tem. Lucy Gonzalez is now. 2 years before, he was the mayor pro tem. What the mayor pro tem does is, in the event that the mayor is not there, they conduct a meeting.
Okay.
And then they conduct that one meeting. I think Brenda, from what I was told, missed one meeting, so he got to run a city council meeting once.
I see.
And if Brenda had, for example, a ribbon cutting, he got to attend that.
Gotcha. The ceremonial type stuff, yeah.
And that's it.
That's all that pro tem does. Okay.
That's all. Yeah. There is no training. Did I learn anything by being the mayor pro tem? No.
Not really, yeah.
Was there anything else? So it's something nice to say I was a mayor pro tem. But it has no substance.
It's kind of just a title. Yeah.
The only training they get is they have a meet and greet with all the people that finance and operations, marketing. But that's about the only training. So I feel that someone with a fresh set of eyes is more important than someone that's been part of the process for so long.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
So I'm coming in with no, what do they call it? No baggage?
Yeah, no baggage.
I got no baggage.
That's right.
And so I get to come in with a brand new set of eyes and say, we need to change this or we don't.
Yeah, a lot of people like that. So let's talk about this. So for people who might not even really know what the mayor does, in a town like San Angelo. So let's talk about Brenda Gunter. So she has been the mayor, and there's criticism of Brenda. One of the biggest criticisms she has is that she doesn't do a lot of stuff like this. She doesn't engage with the public a lot. Now, I see her all the time when I go to ribbon cuttings and city events and stuff at the fire station. She's there. She gives a little speech, but then boom, yep. she's out of there. And so, what does the mayor do besides those ceremonial things? What do they do, like in conjunction with the city council? Like, what is your primary role? What are you responsible for as mayor?
Let's talk like a corporation.
Okay.
So the city is a corporation. Mm-hmm. And then you have a board of directors that manages the corporation, and they're the ones that are giving direction mm-hmm. to the elected or to the city officials or the corporation.
Right.
So the city council and the mayor. So what do? We will set the vision of what we want the city to do.
Right.
And we have only direct contact with Daniel Valenzuela.
Okay.
We cannot go to Michael Dane or Rick Wise or anyone else. Our only contact is Daniel.
Okay.
And our boss is a citizen. So we go out and we talk to the citizens. They're on top.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's the council and the mayor.
Yeah.
And then it's Daniel Valenzuela and his staff.
I see.
But the best way to explain that would be let's say you said you had a business.
Yes, sir.
How would you like it if I went to your business and started yelling at your employees?
I wouldn't like it at all. Yeah.
Right. That's why we have the chain of command.
Okay.
That we go
Makes
to Daniel
sense.
instead of going out to everyone else. So
sure.
What is the biggest role of the mayor? It's to set the vision and to set the priorities of the city with the council. So the mayor will come back in and say, all right, what we need to focus on is economic growth for the Lakeview area or for one of the other areas that we've ignored. So we'll go to the city manager and say, this is where we want to focus. Do we want it downtown anymore?
I
think it's okay now. What's the growth area? So we're the board that comes in and sets a direction for the city to Daniel, and he runs it.
And what's interesting about that, let's say Tom might have the experience, the hands-on stuff that's going on day to day, but the mayor's role, like you're saying, is sort of to be a visionary, the overall picture.
Correct.
And so some of the roles that you've done on the boards and stuff have prepared you for that, which is cool. So I want to ask you about, before we get into some specific issues, tell us who Trinidad Aguirre is. I want to know just a little bit more about you. So where did you grow up? What brought you to San Angelo? What's your experience been like living as a resident here?
Let's start from birth. I was born in Eaton, Texas. Went to grade school in Wall for 3 years.
Okay.
And then we came into the San Angelo. I'm a Lakeview graduate.
Yep, nice.
An ASU graduate. I've got a bachelor's degree in computer science. I love computer programming, and I love the analytics. What I found though, when I was going to when I first got out of high school, I couldn't afford to go to college.
Okay.
So what I did was, the only way for me to get a higher education was to join the military. And we had the old GI Bill. So I served for 7 years in the electronic program with the military, got out, and then finished my college. Started out with GTE on Tuick Street, just down the street, as a technician.
Okay.
And then rose, supervisor, manager, director, then ended up as the president of Verizon that you've already addressed.
Right.
So what that does, by joining the Navy, I'm a veteran.
Nice.
I've had, when you take a look at the family, I've got, some that are disabled, some that are elderly and everything else. So I have a good round understanding of what the city needs are. And sometimes we work so much on infrastructure. What I like about the way that I've always managed people, employees were always my number one focus.
Ooh, I love that.
Because if you're not
the people, right?
The people, one of the things that I hear is when people go to, one of our city offices, it seems the employees are mad.
So this is the number one thing I was going to ask you about. Why is that such a thing? Like, you walk in and they're like, just angry. And I heard you say on Rusty's podcast, you said, wouldn't that be something if you walked into a city office and people were happy? I started laughing. I said, wouldn't that be wild? It's like a dream, you know?
It's true, but it's the way, when you had as many employees as I did, and you mentioned, one of the things, with Brenda, that she's not out everywhere. You need a mayor that is not giving direction with the employees. Mm-hmm. Because that's Daniel Valenzuela's job.
That's right.
But you need a mayor that's going to go out there and shake their hand and simply say, thank you.
Yes.
Nothing else.
That's important. Yeah.
Nothing else. Just a simple thank you. And if it's somebody's birthday, employees again, acknowledge them.
Yeah.
That's all they want is acknowledgement. What we'll find is that once you start to treat your employees like family, they will work their hearts out for you. Their attitude and everything will change. But if we've got disgruntled employees, it always starts at the top.
That's right.
I mean, if someone is, what do they? We won't say the word here, but something rolls downhill.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
And but it's interesting. But employees are probably the number one focus. With good employees, we can have economic development.
Okay.
We can have good schools. We can have good everything in the city.
Yeah.
But it starts with people.
Well, I like that. So let's talk real quick. So tell us your overall vision. What's your vision for San Angelo?
My vision for San Angelo is, let's talk about money, because at the beginning and the end, everything is about money. Right now, the city of San Angelo gets their money two ways. One of them is property taxes, and the other one is sales taxes.
Right.
Okay, so we'll talk about you since you're sitting in that chair. Yeah. So there's two ways I can get your money.
Okay.
One of them is property taxes and the other one is sales taxes. But what we're doing to the people right now is I'm charging them more property taxes, and they only have a set amount of money. So if I'm taking the money away from you from property taxes, that means you can't go to restaurants. That means you can't go buy anything.
Right.
So in essence, we're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Okay.
And we need to stop that. So what's my vision? My vision is that we need to start looking at economic development. How do we take the burden off of the people and focus on the businesses?
Everybody wants to know that. Yeah.
And there's a lot of businesses. We got and I don't know if we'll get to it later, but we got two interstates coming in.
That's right. Yeah.
Our airport was a failure. I mean, God, I'd love, we can't even have a restaurant out there because
it's sad, isn't it?
It's sad. I wanted a cup of coffee the other day and there was no place to get it. But so what we need to do is, when we look at economic development, we need to come in and figure out a way to bring the businesses in. The two interstates is going to give us a tremendous amount of opportunity. What they're going to do is, why not bring in a Bucky? Start working with them. It may take us 4 years, but that's okay.
Yeah.
And then they come back, and the thing that they'll always ask me, well, it's going to take 20 years for the interstates to get here.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, so if I asked you personally, the past 20 years, how fast did they go?
Yeah, it's like that, right?
It's like a blink of an eye.
Exactly. What was that, 2005? Yeah, I was graduating high school in 2004, so yeah.
And look at you now. It happens so fast.
It does, yeah.
So that would be long term. So now let's go to midterm. Midterm is we need to go after those businesses that we can grow now, and that would be organic.
Okay.
One of the things we don't focus on is retention.
Yeah. Okay.
And look at all the stores or all the businesses that are closing in San Angelo.
That's right, man.
And look at, we're not a business friendly area.
Yeah.
So part two would be, let's make it business friendly. Do we need all of the regulations that we have right now?
Do you think, what is attributing to all these local businesses, the mom and pops, the bars, all of these businesses shutting down? Do you think it's that? I mean, what is it? I mean, that's causing it.
It's us.
Okay.
I was talking to Tim Condon last night, and he was I really enjoyed our conversations. One of the things that he told me though that troubled me, he says he's opening up a second Angry Cactus
in Abilene, right?
In Abilene.
Yeah, I know.
And asked him why not San Angelo,
right?
And he said, I can't deal with the ordinances. I can't deal with.
Wow.
And he's not the only one.
Man,
there's others that are saying we've got now. What causes them? That's a good question. We do.
Yeah.
Who controls the ordinances? The mayor, the city council. And so we need to really go in there and purge all the nonsense we have.
Yeah.
And we need to keep only those things that we need. So how do we skinny down the city? We compare ourselves to Wichita Falls a lot.
Okay.
They have more people and their taxes are a lot less than us because their city expenses are less than ours.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and then short term, what do we do short term? It's what I would really like to focus on, and I'm stealing from Gary, one of my running mates, but he likes entertainment. That's his thing. But the biggest entertainment we have that we could really do some stuff with is sports. You know, you were, I mean, you start to bring in the baseball teams, the soccer teams.
Yeah, man, I miss the Colts, you know, and the Outlaws.
And, that's year round too. That's not I mean, so we could really get some revenue.
True, man. I like that.
Immediate revenue.
Yes.
You know, look at Lake Nasworthy. What an asset.
Man, why are there not businesses out there jumping up left and right? Restaurants on the water, you know?
Because we focus on downtown.
Yeah, I know. So let me ask you that real quick. So why has there been this, you know, for the last 15 years at least, you know, there's been this real big push to grow downtown. And it's like we make some progress and then it kind of falls through stuff starts falling through the cracks. Business starts shutting down. So now what do you think is the solution to that? Do we refocus on downtown or do we move our focus elsewhere?
You know, in order to grow, and I'm going back to my experience with Verizon, sometimes what you've got to do is you've got to do parallel growth.
Okay.
So in order to grow downtown, we need to grow other areas like Lake Nasworthy, like the Lakeview area, like Southland or Bentwood or any of the others. I don't want to make sure I don't get anyone mad at me because I'm not mentioning their areas. But as you grow these parallel units, then we grow the people, we grow the monies, and then they start to come back downtown. But if you only focus on one segment, people get mad.
Well, and that's kind of what's happening.
And they get mad. They say, stop. Right. We don't need to do that. So let's focus on these other areas. And then, you know, one of the things they always bring up is Fiesta del Cancho. We have a terrible ordinance on food trucks. They don't want food trucks.
Yeah, that's not good.
I mean, so it's hard to do that. But there is so much opportunity, you know, to answer your first, you know, in economic development on this entertainment side. It would be, that is this year, you know, if we really focused on it.
Interesting. So what about this real quick? The parking downtown. I did a little piece on this, and the guy that runs around in his car and he chalks people's tires. I did a piece on this because Tim actually reached out to me to do it because he said, man, my employees are getting tickets when they're at work, when they're here for over 3 hours or whatever, they're getting ticketed. So I went around, talked to business owners, and they said, we can't stand it. It's horrible. It's running people off. People want to go out on a Saturday and go eat at Fuentes and then go shopping, but they're going to get a ticket. What's up with that?
It's just a bad ordinance.
Yeah.
It really is.
Why are all these ordinances happening like that, though, that are getting in the way of just good business? You know?
Because we're not business friendly. The other thing that we also have on the streets that I would definitely, that is one we need to take a look at. I mean, if you're going to be bringing in people, and I understand you want people to move in and out, but do you really? If I'm going to go have a meal, you know, or if I'm going to go to shop, you know, we don't have anything here in San Angelo other than entertainment, and it's going to take longer than that. So I would like to go the other way, and if there is someone that a car that is there a little bit too long, then let's go talk with the exception. And the other one is let's start building some handicap ways for people to get into the side and onto the sidewalks.
That's right.
We don't have that. We're focusing on, but the reason we do that, and it's the same thing that they did with the police. They said, we need more revenue. Go get more tickets. And remember remember the chief that was last August when our mayor went and told the chief that he needed to give more tickets. And my response to that is the police department and the fire department are not profit centers.
That's good, man.
There's
That's going to tip people off right there.
There's safety.
That's right. Yeah.
And
protection, right? Yeah.
And they start a business, but don't give me a parking space.
I know. Makes no sense.
Doesn't make it. But I agree. We need to stop the nonsense.
Yeah, for sure. So what about our drinking water? I mean, what can you tell us about that? Is it ever going to get to a point where it's consumable? I mean, there was a report that was released a few months back about the link to our drinking water and the contaminants in it causing issues, liver issues, kidney issues, cancer. Like, what can we do about our water supply?
You know, there comes a time where you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over over and expect. That's called, what was it? The definition of insanity.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we're trying to fix a water treatment plant that is so far behind the times. It's antiquated.
Okay.
There's new technology. One of the ladies that I was talking to says there's a new technology. She just came back from New York, and that she says that one of the issues with our water is the iron or the metals within the water,
right.
and that there's a magnetism system of some sort that will draw them out. And she says it's incredible what comes out of our drinking water. But what we need to do is, do we need to invest, I don't know, 16 million on the river stage? Do we need to invest some? Let's invest in a brand new water treatment plant.
That's what I'm talking about,
and
dude.
People come back and say, well, no, because it doesn't generate revenue.
Is that the biggest thing that they say about that?
Yes, it doesn't generate revenue. So why do we want to? It's wrong. I mean, we have mechanisms to go do this, and so what? It takes us 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever years.
But it should be a priority, man. That's people's health.
It's a priority.
Yeah.
But that's what's wrong. Is it's like trying to fix an old building. You can spend all the money you want to, change all the filters, but it's not going to fix it.
Well, that's a good segue into, let's talk about the bond. So for SAISD, fixing up those buildings you're talking about, the plumbing, electricity, building a new Glenn Junior High. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? Are you yes or no for that? Are you a proponent of the bond pass?
I am a yes.
Okay. Tell us why.
And the reason I'm a yes is because, I kind of explained where I started from.
Yeah.
Went from really extreme poverty to being the president of Verizon.
Yeah.
The way that I did that was through education. And if it hadn't been for our public schools, I would have never. There's no telling where I would be today.
Yeah.
But if we don't invest now, economic development, would you go to a town that they said the schools are terrible, the buildings are falling down?
That'd probably be my biggest reason not to go move there.
And that's so. To me, I know it's going to hurt the citizens. But I am a proponent. I think at some time, like we talked about the water treatment plant, at some time we've got to say enough. I've got several buildings, commercial buildings. I wish I had bulldozed 2 or 3 of them. Yeah. Because over time they have cost me so much more than a new building.
Yep.
And with the schools, I think it's time.
I do too. I have to agree with you on that. Well, I liked your video that you did on the Coliseum because, man, this put it in perspective. So you went out there and the parking lot was almost bare. There were like 2 or 3 cars there. And you said, man, I love the Coliseum. I love coming to the rodeo. The carnival's great. But other than about 17 days out of the year, I think you said, this place is like this. It's barren. So, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So explain that. Do you still feel that way? And
I do. My biggest... one of the things that I want to make clear to, those that are listening right now is the rodeo is not going away.
Right.
So if we don't approve this bond this time, guess what? The rodeo will be the same the next year and the next year and the next year.
Okay.
What they've done is that we've created such a drama around it. It's almost like if this bond doesn't get approved, the rodeo is gone. No, it's not.
Yeah, you're right. It'll be the same.
It'll be the same.
Yeah.
And my biggest reason for not liking it at the time is that, why at the last minute? Why put it head to head with the education of our children?
Yeah.
Why not wait 2 years?
Right.
Let the taxpayers get a little bit of relief. I
like that. Yeah.
And then bring it back in. I just don't like the timing. The timing of it now. The other thing I don't like about is I need more transparency. They're saying they're skyboxes. Are they all sold already? Probably. Are the ticket prices going up? Are they gonna since we're gonna build it and then we're gonna lease it to the rodeo?
Right.
How much is a lease payment? What's it going to pay?
Yeah.
And who gets the sales from the tickets?
That's right, man. Those are good questions.
We get the money from the sales, but they're saying that they retain the money for all of the ticket sales, so we don't generate any of that. But then the big one for me is taxes. They're telling me that there'll be a clause in there where they don't have to pay taxes because it's a city-owned asset. Now, Lake Nasworthy, we have some property out there we leased, and guess what? They have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
So why doesn't it?
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah.
So to me, the transparency is not there enough, and the timing is bad. I love the rodeo, and I still stand there. Yeah. But there's too many unknowns, and the timing is bad for our citizens.
Okay.
I'd rather just focus on one. I don't think our people can take 2, and now they're trying to decide, which one. that's not fair.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I can understand that. So just a couple more questions here. So one is, let's talk about, you saw the Facebook post Seth Chomout, he made, in favor of Tom Thompson, right? And he was transparent about the fact that he worked for him. He did, his website for him, right? But then I found it very interesting. I'm not afraid to talk about this. I'm not, trying to, tick anybody off, but, Walt Koenig, I highly respect Walt. I've done an interview with Walt. He was a good president, I feel like, of the chamber, a CEO. And he said, my interaction, my working with Tom was disappointing. And I saw that and I was like, whoa, for a couple reasons. One, disappointing. Why? And two, he was saying that on a public forum, and so it was very interesting to me. And I saw you chimed in and brought to light that, yeah, Seth did do some work for him. So he might have sort of a biased opinion. Well, that's okay. That's his own thing, But I want to know more about that. Have you ever worked directly with Tom? And let me ask you this too. What would make you a better mayor than Tom?
That's a good question. When you start looking at the credentials of all three of us, Tom is a marketing person.
Yes.
Now, I've asked people, and do you know Tom? And they will tell me no. And they say, I've never seen him. I said, can you tell me, and those that do know him, can you tell me over the past 8 years, tell me something that Tom has done that stands out. Yeah. That comes out, he's done, and they can't. Yeah. He comes back and he, as we talked earlier, that he was the pro tem. But that doesn't mean anything. That just means he ran a meeting. Right. So as a marketing person, and no offense, because I know you do a lot of marketing, but as a marketing person, they're not executors. They don't know how to look at a P&L statement. They don't know how to do the finances. They don't know how to hire and fire people.
So the business end you're talking about, management.
The business or the management end. I had 2 or 3 marketing people on my as my vice presidents. I'm telling you, they're worth their weight in gold. Yeah. But they couldn't do the presidency.
That's right.
Because so that's now if you take me and Tom into a crowd, guess who's going to get all the attention?
Who?
Tom.
Why do you say that?
Because what is a salesperson compared to I don't call it a nerd, but someone that pays attention to detail. I see what you're saying.
So more curated, more business look, or more a certain look, a certain demeanor. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. When you think of a major corporation, which one comes to mind? Apple?
Coca-Cola.
Okay. Have you ever seen those guys out in the public being very charismatic, they'll come in and do it. No, they're business.
They're under the radar. Yeah.
They're under the radar.
Yeah.
They're business focused.
Yeah.
And that's who I am.
Okay.
Now, Gary's
cool. What do you think about Gary?
Gary is cool, but he doesn't have the experience.
Okay. Yeah.
And, to me, Gary is a wonderful person.
Yeah.
And so is Tom.
Sure. Yeah.
But when you take a look at pure credentials.
Right. Okay.
They'll tell me, well, you've never run a city. Well, I ran Tampa, Florida. I ran Plano, Texas, which everyone knows. I ran Long Beach, California. I ran Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
And I had the same units here. So it wasn't at the city council level. It was much broader in scope and much bigger.
Okay.
So yes, I do have that kind of experience.
Right.
But, I think this race, what's going to be the differentiator is going to be money.
Oh, you do?
I really do. I think when you take a look at money, and, I know you're on top of everything here. Remember the Good Old Boy Network?
Oh, yeah.
So what does the Good Old Boy Network really mean in layman's terms?
Yeah.
It means they donate money to a person that they feel will better represent their special interest.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they're donating a lot of money. I met with, or I had a good conversation because I did not get their support was, both from the real estate and both from the home builders.
Yeah.
And I asked them why. I said, what was the differentiator? And they said, well, to be honest with you, Trinidad, we feel that Tom is better aligned with our needs.
Really? Okay.
And I said, well, I can accept that answer, because I would not be in alignment with your needs. I am in alignment with the people.
That's right. I was going to say, you're the people's champ here.
I'm the okay. So if they're building a house, and I may need to bring in more inspectors or shut some projects down.
Yeah.
And they're not going to like that. But it was an answer that I could accept because
I get why. Yeah.
I'm not aligned with them. And I wouldn't be.
Yeah, it's almost like if you think about Donald Trump, whichever way you feel about him, he's not a politician. You know what I mean? He's a businessman.
Neither am I.
It kind of reminds me of that in a way. So there are a lot of benefits to that. I like that. I like your answer. And lastly, tell us, look into that camera right there and tell the audience why they should vote. And you kind of answered that, but get real personal. Tell them why they should vote for you over the other two, over Gary and Tom Thompson.
You know, when you look at me, I bring several factors to the table. One of them is I'm very business focused. I'm the guy that we were talking about that is going to pay attention to the details, to the budgets. I'm going to take a look where the capital is being expended, and we're going to make some tough decisions on where we need to cut within the city. That's the business side of it. And I understand that we got to reduce taxes, take care of the animals. All of that stuff is there. But there's a couple of other things. The other factor that you got to look at is that I'm a Hispanic. And from the Hispanic, we're about 50% Hispanic in the city of San Angelo. So what I would also bring to the table is unity. You know,
Nice.
when you start looking at us and you start looking at it, you know, I would cover all aspects of it. And I need that. I need to ensure that, you know, we are bringing in the entire city as a family together. And it's not just the Hispanics, but it's all the different races. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I would bring to the table. And the other one is I'm a people person. I am very, very approachable. You can, if you meet me anywhere, I'll have a one-on-one talk with you about anything because, you know, you had mentioned that, you know, Brenda sometimes will disappear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I will never, if you call
like
me
that. Yeah.
and I want to try to set up an office for you, people are harassing me about that. But I think we need to have office hours.
I like that.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever we need. Set up a time frame. You want to meet with me, you call and we'll set up a meeting. But I think that's the big thing with me is I bring a broad difference than my other counterparts.
I like that. And that it kind of reminds me of, honestly, Hernandez and Travis Griffith. Travis was great about that. And I can text Travis and he'll get back to me within minutes sometimes about something I'm looking, you know, an answer about something. And I get that vibe from you and I like that. And I've reached out to Tom and Gary and, you know, I really respect the fact that you got back to me immediately. Not only did you take me up on my offer, but like I said, it was quick. And I still haven't heard a response from Tom. So, Tom, I'd love to hear from you. Hopefully we get Gary on as well. But other than that, thank you so much, Trinidad.
You know, I really enjoy it. This has
been great.
You're a great guy to talk to.
Thanks, man. Well, thank you so much.
You are.
Awesome. All right. Well, take care, guys. You heard it here. Trinidad Aguirre. And when is the election? Tell us real quick.
It's on May 3rd.
May 3rd. Okay.
And right now we're on early election. We've got about 2,000 people that voted this morning. We need to get that to about 8,000. So please go out and vote.
Okay. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Mr. Trinidad Aguirre, for coming into the studio and for the interview. Guys, get out there, place your vote. Whoever you're voting for, it's important, especially in a town like San Angelo.